Nice Azora.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you listened some bangers on that today.
Yeah, man, it's feeling good. I just got my box of kendamas from Florida, so I have like my
Oh,
whole
nice.
collection now. This was in there. It was like the first one I saw when I opened it. I was like, oh.
That's epic. And actually, you know what? Now that we're talking, now that you mentioned Azora, I just gotta ask you, man, how does it feel to be an announced player for them?
It's crazy, man. I mean, the word that comes to mind is unreal.
Hmm.
Um, me and Guzman, Alex Guzman, the guy who filmed the edit,
Yep.
and like did all the editing and stuff. We've been talking and really looking into stuff, and I think I'm like the first American to ever actually be like announced on the team in their entire like history of being Azora, which is it's an honor. It's absolutely crazy. That's crazy, man.
It's it's I mean, dude, it is so legendary, I think, because you are the first person who's American. Of course, I mean, you're the first one been on the team. And honestly, I was gonna say like, yeah, Nick has his Zara mod, of course, but he's not on the team. You know, you're on the actual team, and there's never been really any American affiliation with the Zora. I don't think ever. So
Right.
this is absolutely huge. And when I saw your announced, I said like, bro, let's go. That's ET, baby. You know, I mean, there's like this certain coolness factor that I have associated with Azora. And maybe you know what I'm talking about since we both started long like much longer ago than most players nowadays.
Yeah.
But and I mean you really have taken in I mean you're a huge fan of Azora. You're always playing the old shape. Not even the new shape. You're always playing the old shape.
Yeah, man. Guzman back in the day when I was like 13 or something, like almost 10 years ago now, he gave me a Blue Sky Zora, like one of the first Damas he ever gave me.
Hmm.
So it's like it's full circle. It's yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. And hey, I want to actually shout out Nick and I were talking about this. Shout out Alex Guzman. That was amazingly filmed. The editing was very, very, very good.
Right.
Really good production on the edit. Your tricks, of course, were crazy, but I really love the filming and editing. So huge shout out to him. He did a fantastic job.
Oh man, actually, shout out Guzman, man.
Yeah.
He absolutely killed it. Like he always does. And I couldn't have had like just it was just all around outstanding. Filming with him was like a journey, you know, obviously there were a few tricks that I was getting upset at and stuff, and he's just always been really good at just sitting there and working through it with me. And I mean, that was like we only had like 3 days. We had 3 days of filming, so that was just all.
Wow.
That was we got it all done, and if you put just the days together, it took us a week to make, and it was just we. I mean, he killed it, dude. And it's the
Yeah.
first time that I got to sit with him at the computer too, and like watch him do his thing, and like have a little bit of. He was asking me questions, and I
Yeah.
had some input on some of the stuff, and yeah, man, it was just a whole new experience with him. I've been filming with that guy for years, so it was just amazing. Shout out Guzman. Let's go.
Shout out. How do you like the reshape 3?
It's solid, dude. You know, I like my smaller kind of shapes, and I
Hmm.
feel like a lot of shapes nowadays are really big. So I think that it really has a nice in between of like the old school shape and then like the newer school style, and it feels really good in the hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the same. I used to back in 2018 when the reshape came out, I took it and I was like, dude, this thing's massive. You know, of course, now Recon was bigger than that. But I
Right.
think because we're reshape now, it's definitely updated. It's not a super big shape, but I think I agree with you. It's a nice balance in between maybe a
Right.
smaller shape and a bigger. It's a nice middle ground, and I think the quality on Azora is really really good. So
Oh, all
it's
around, man.
you can just tell in the reshape. It's just like they really care, you know. So
Oh,
that's awesome here. I'm happy. I decided to touch on that because yeah, it's such a cool thing that just happened, and maybe new players will just kind of think like, oh, what's a Zora? I mean, yeah, new players are probably thinking, oh, what is a Zora? You know, and all
right.
this stuff. But I mean, Zora was a huge part of evidently. Edwin just said it, part of his early Konami days, and even now with really how much he loves playing them. And I don't know, yeah, for me too. I mean, it's funny you said, Alex, excuse me, he's for one of the first Domas he gave you was Light Blue Zora. That was literally my first Dama ever. So yeah, I mean it's a huge part of history. It's actually massive that Edwin's on the Azora squad. So yeah, I can't wait to see where you go from here with them. I mean, that's super, super cool.
Yeah, it's amazing, dude. They've offered a solid support system, and it's just really cool, like being able to communicate just with like it's a trip getting DMs from the Azora Instagram and collaborating on posts and them accepting them. I'm like, holy shit, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Oh man.
That's gotta be incredible feeling, man. Well, I'm happy. You guys have an amazing team. You, Utaro, and freaking Takia, plus the other guys too, like Akira and
Yeah.
actually, and I think Utaro's manager, Yuki. Yeah. I
Yep.
think there'll be obviously more too. I think they're doing a sponsorship contest, right? So I think there's gonna
Yep.
yeah. Well,
So awesome.
that's awesome, dude. This today I mainly am really, really excited to talk to you about NAKO. NAKO
Yeah.
was almost week, it was a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And for everybody listening who doesn't know, Edwin just got second place in the pro division, the highest division at NAKO, the North American Kendama Open, which is one of the top two biggest Kendama competitions in the United States. And it had 117 players in that division. So
Yeah.
massive, massive division to get in the top two in.
Yeah,
And
man. Single elimination. It added the
yes,
pressure too, man. Holy smokes.
yes, single elim too. So not even you don't get no second chances. Once you're done, you're done. So
You're done.
absolutely massive to get second at this comp. And you were coming back to this event as the reigning champion. Last year you won the 2023 online North American Kendama Open. Massive. So what was your mindset going into this competition? Did it differ from any previous years because you were the reigning pro open division champion?
Yeah, it was well, I mean, it was really scary for sure. Just like defending my title in a
Mhm.
sense, like going out there and just putting my best up. And I mean, a lot of people noticed how I was going about this competition was much different than past ones. I'm usually jumping around on stage or like much more like hyper or whatnot. And I mean, I had my moments for sure, but I definitely really was focused and I put that energy into the tricks themselves and just I know what I can do and I did it. So it felt really good and just being beat by the world champ and everything. I got 2 points in a row on him, which is better than I like. When I knew I was going up against Ryoga, I was like, man, I just want 1 point on this guy. Honestly, just 1 point. And I did much better than I thought I would against him. And it was a journey, dude. I was really focusing on my breathing and things like
Mhm.
that. I found a separate breakout room. They had like their little meeting rooms where they were
Yep.
having workshops and things
Yeah.
like that. And there was a room that was open that Sweets had, but the door was closed and nothing happened in there all weekend. And the first morning there, I was just like checking doorknobs on these breakout rooms to see which ones I could stretch in. And
Hmm.
I found this room was unlocked at like 5:30 a.m. And I went in there and nobody went in there the whole weekend. So it ended up being this space that I was able to, in between matches, just go there, sit alone. The doors were super thick. So as soon as you close the door, it was like no sound. And I was able to just breathe, stretch, do whatever I needed to do to get on point for the next match. And, usually I'm thinking about like I'll try and get to like beat my first match and then after that I do my best to get to top 16. So I do that, I do my best to get to top 8, then you go for top 3, then for first. And this comp I was just going match by match, just really focusing on each individual match.
Hmm.
And yeah man, I read this the Wim Hof method book
Yep.
like a little bit through on my way over to the comp and it was really helpful. It talks about just like breathing and what breathing slow your heart rate down and pick your heart rate up, and when you're competing at that level in front of that many people, your heart rate gets really fast and your hands shake a
Hmm.
lot, like your legs shake and the stage is already shaking from the speakers blaring. So it's like I was really focused on it talked about a longer inhale is faster heart rate. A longer
Yeah.
exhale is slower heart rate. So I was focusing on just a normal relaxed inhale and then double the exhale. And my heart rate was solid the whole competition. Um, Two people got 1 point on me throughout the entire day, but all my other matches I 3-0'd. And it was just, I was in the zone, man. I just, yeah, felt great that comp.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You actually only got 2 points scored on you. You played 7 matches, and in the 6 matches previous to the finals, you had, I think, a total of, yeah, two or maybe three, yeah, just 3 points. Just three
Yeah,
points scored on you ever. Most points anybody got on you in a match was one. So
yep,
you were obviously super dialed in. You just talked about your stretching. You go in, you immediately. That's so cool. So right as the comp, you get into the comp, and then morning of, I assume you're checking doors day one, and you
yeah.
talked about stretching and breathing. What can you go a little more into that, and like how you started, like when you started implementing that into your routine, into your practice, maybe your daily life, and how and what has been such a benefit from incorporating this in competitions?
Well, I started stretching in like third grade. I'd go to like a parkour class,
Okay.
and I did that for like 4 years, this like parkour class. But I really took in the stretching aspect of it because I mean you can't move or do what I mean you need to do in like parkour, doing flips and stuff without stretching your muscles.
Mm,
You'll really mess yourself up. So I just started stretching before class, and then when class started, we would stretch in the beginning of it. So I don't know, just getting into stretches.
yeah.
I started doing it so often that it's like, I mean, some people don't like to stretch because they think that you like rely on it or you have to do it. But
Hmm.
like, which was definitely my mindset at first, was like, I don't want to stretch too much because I know if I keep doing this, I'll have to do it to be able to function how I need to throughout my day.
Mm,
But I realized that that functioning is more so than most because most don't stretch. So I just really tapping into that every day, whether it's comp or not. I'm an early riser since I was a little kid. I wake up early. So just having those couple of hours before the other competitors that are sleeping and just going into a room alone and doing I'll do 3 rounds of Wim Hof, and then I tap into my stretch routine, which I've kind of just taken little stretches from like
yeah.
yoga apps I've had over the years and parkour class back in the day and stuff. I've made my own little thing. I'll have my foam roller with me and
Hmm.
just really dial in best I can. I'll throw on some motivational talking while I'm like stretching and stuff like that.
Yep.
And actually, so because I don't know, when you win a comp that big and you come into it defending your title, it's really scary because you don't want to lose your title, and you like want to keep this success. And something that was being talked about in these motivational things consistently was success, and how success isn't a thing without failure,
Mm,
and letting go of that worry and just knowing what you can do and just tapping into that, putting all your energy into that. And I think it really helped me just not worrying about losing my title or anything like that. Like it's scarier in person too, you know, when it's online, you're in your comfort zone, you got
right.
maybe the team with you and no other crowd, you know, and it's like the super nice whatever. But when you're on stage, you're in front of hundreds and it's like this whole thing. So it was much more scary. I
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually I felt more dialed in person than I did online, honestly, because of the implementing of stretches and breath work that I was doing. I
Hmm.
know NAKO was only like it was only like 1 day online, you know, so
Right.
I did whatever
One
I
day
needed
for like
to
eight
do.
hours.
Exactly, exactly.
Straight on the Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a whole different experience, and I really like I have a hard time like thinking that I'm good at kendama or anything like that. I Playing alone all the time is really
Hmm.
hard to be like, you know, I'm good at this. It's like, oh man, it could be better. I could be better. You
Mm,
know, why am I not better? But I
mm,
feel like going in person, knowing what I can do and just fully tapping into that really proved to myself how good I am at kendama. And I feel
mhm.
like going into future events, there's that confidence now. Like I know what I can do. I'm good at kendama, and I'm here to kick some ass, and I'm here to get my ass kicked as well. And that's like what the whole like success thing is about, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love there's a couple things you touched on that stood out to me there. So first of all, really quick before I go into depth of anything else, I just want to ask, have you ever tried going into a competition? Have you ever gone into a competition not breathing, not stretching, and notice a huge difference between your performance?
100%. 100%. So like going into, let's say, me and you in the finals at Battle at the Border
Okay,
that
yeah.
I did not stretch. I did a couple of maybe stretches like at the venue, like throughout, but I didn't do my breath work. I wasn't breathing properly on stage, all this stuff. I actually wasn't even signed up in the competition. They were like, well, that's round one of open division. They were like, that's round one of open division. If you haven't heard your name or gone up yet, then that's it. And I went to Chad in the back. I was like, dude, I didn't get called. I haven't competed yet. Like what's going on? I should be on there. And luckily somebody didn't show up. Like they didn't make their flight or something to the whole event. So
Mhm.
they were able to fit me in right there. And I not doing my breathing or anything like that, I still climbed to second place and
Yeah.
still did really good. And uh I don't know, when you can do that good without breathing and without stretching, you can only do better if you do the stuff. So it's like if I didn't do that stuff, or if I kind of like ate a bunch of junk and like kind of just hung out with the homies, like hitting vapes all the time and stuff during comp and like all this stuff, then I would have been shaky. I would have lost those first couple of rounds or that or like third round or something. And like, man, yeah, I definitely 100% contribute my breathing and my stretching and my mindset to how good I do in competition because I think it's a huge part.
Yeah. That's absolutely massive. I remember you climbed your way to the very top of that event, that bracket, through the losers bracket. I don't know who you lost to, but
Oh
you
yeah. So I lost to Jacob Treble. I lost to Jake, who is
yeah,
insane. You
he's
know, he's
really good, especially in the early rounds,
really
dude.
good, and he beat me. He slaughtered me on stage. And I
Yeah,
told him too. I was like, I was feeling so good, dude. I put my arm around him. I was like, Jacob Treble to the crowd, and I told him I was just like, I'm gonna find you again when I climb back up, and you're gonna lose. And I looked him right in the eyes when I told him that with a smile on my face. And the match that got me back into winner's
that's
bracket was
right.
against Jacob Treble, and I 3-0'd him. He didn't
Yeah.
stand a chance.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And I mean, I was just feeling good. The vibes were there and it just happened. But like, man, yeah, that was a whole different, thank God for losers bracket, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a couple. I don't know. It's different ways of doing open. Do you like double elimination or single elim better?
Well, You know, I have climbed my way to either top eight or podium at a couple events through losers back bracket.
Right.
I think that it really gives you a shot to show your best, learn from the match you've lost from, and then climb to the top.
Hmm.
But it when there's no double elimination, it really just cuts to the core of who's there and who's dialed. And all there's a few people, Schultz is one of these people who's like super confident in how good they are. And he kind of tries to flex that a little bit to get into at least my head a little bit.
Hmm.
We did the little pre-NAKO comp, and he was like, "Me and you in the finals, you're losing," and I was just like, "Okay, bro." And he said something about Azoras too, and I was like, "Well, they better be fresh." And he was like, "Well, I don't have Azoras like that," and I brought one for him to compete against me with in the finals. And he was practicing like crazy. You see him in the crowd,
Hmm.
in the corner, dialing in, practicing super hard, getting really crispy. He's a great player. And man, it doesn't matter how much you practice, honestly, you practice before the event. It's great. I practiced for like a month and a half before NAKO, pretty hard. I could have done more that could have helped me more in the finals, but I'm not
Hmm.
going to get any better at these tricks trying them 30 minutes before my match.
Hmm.
I know what I can do. I've been practicing for a month, and it really, at the end of the day, comes down to who's more dialed on the stage right then. So you can be like Takuya and be insane, but it really comes down to who's more dialed at those tricks in that 3 minutes on the World Cup stage. And this last year, Ryoga was more dialed in that moment. Whether he practiced more or not, he was
Hmm.
more dialed right then. And it really just comes down to that because that's when the match is. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned just now that you said practice, it doesn't matter how much you practice. Are you referring to overall in general, or are you just referring to practice day of?
Day of, like at the
Okay.
competition. I feel like practicing the tricks is super important. I've definitely done really good in competitions without practicing, but if I did practice before the event, I probably could have won those, you
Hmm.
know? So it's just like really knowing when to practice.
Sure.
For me personally, when I practice the day of or whatever's going on, I might throw a couple of tricks here and there while I'm
Yeah.
playing Ken or something, kind of warm up on them, but I stress, man. If I'm sitting here and I miss my trick, let's say one of the tricks is fish special, and I miss that trick 3 times in a row, day of, man, I'm getting in my head. Why would I do that to myself when I know I got that trick dialed
Hmm.
and I can throw it around in a game of Ken or so, and then on stage is when it really matters. I am so bad at stilt tray flip. It's like it's an issue, and I really made sure to put like time into that trick, and I'm still pretty bad at it. I'm not consistent. I can't land that trick like 3 times in a row, like right now. But as soon as I went up on stage against like Nate Wilcox, I landed it right then. And
Yeah.
it was about who had it right then on the stage, not how
Yeah.
much you practiced it. So like, yeah,
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. It's definitely who's the practice can set a foundation, but it's really I think what you're highlighting is who can execute moment of when it's
yeah,
really time.
yeah,
And it sounds like you're saying day of practice, it's negligible in comparison to all the work that a person's done before. Because I think from what you're saying, I've heard other people say this too, and it's like you practice all the day, you practice all you want and day of, but it might not help. I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is it's not going to help as much as putting the practice before. Like, that's why you prioritize practice before and not really day of. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I don't frown upon people who practice a bunch either.
Hmm.
I think that everybody's different. Everybody has their own process and their own way of going about competing at a high level. And if
Hmm.
they need to practice to get like dialed in their head, if they need to miss the tricks 4 times in a row before they compete just to know like what they need to fix or whatnot, I totally get that. And it works for a lot of people.
Hmm.
I see a lot of people doing or like just bracket rounds before they're on stage together
Yeah.
just to get warmed up. I'm more of like a Ken guy, if we like play Ken with the comp tricks, I think is more loose, kind of chill way of going about it and is easier on me and my head.
Hmm.
But man, like I see Johnny Kress, for example, he is dialed, man. And he is the
Beast.
dude, he's a beast. And the whole day of the event and the whole competition, he's practicing. You
Hmm.
see him, he's not hanging out too much. He's not like doing a bunch of crazy stuff. He's sitting there practicing. And that is something that has always been Johnny Kress and his way of going about it. And it's done him well in a lot of competitions. But like seeing him on stage in the top four round that we had, he was stressing and he wasn't fully there. He wasn't landing the tricks as much as he would have liked to. And I don't know like specifically what that is or what that's from, but I personally would contribute that for my personal self towards the practicing too much.
Hmm.
I've taken Schultz down so many times because he's just practicing too much. Relax. You know what you can do it, And
Hmm.
I feel like you're like the more you practice, the more you're questioning yourself, maybe.
Hmm. The more you practice leading up or the practice day of, you
Day
think?
of.
Okay. I want to make it clear for people listening so they don't get
Yeah, yeah,
confused
thank
of
you.
what you mean.
Right.
So, okay, and just to clarify, you said you'll mess around with a couple practice, like maybe Ken's or whatever, but
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like you're practicing a hard day of.
No, that stilt tray I got in that Nate Wilcox round was the first stilt tray I tried that day.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
really like I don't know. Everybody's different. So
totally.
it's like really finding what you works for you or what works for you. And this is what works best for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love hearing that perspective and what works really well for you because it's true. Everybody is gonna have something that they find that is gonna, be noticeably more beneficial than other methods. And hearing different people at different levels. And you mentioned Johnny, he's definitely a practicer. He pre-practice, puts the work in, and for you to rise to the top many times at competitions and have this type of approach where you put work in before, but not so much day of. It's really really cool to see how different methods can succeed.
Yeah.
And you mentioned also that a couple times earlier that you said, okay, yeah, it's scary coming back. It's scary coming back to defend the title, of course. I want to
Yeah.
highlight that because maybe people listening who aren't pro level, maybe they're thinking, oh, the pros, they're pro, it's just they're all really good Kendama and all this stuff. And of course, that's mostly all the time true. But the scare you said scared. I mean, even at the top level, you got second in Pro Open and NAKO. But even you said like, yeah, it's kind of scary. So I assume you mean with that, do you kind of mean that is there nerves that come with that?
Oh, big time, big
Yeah.
time. And that's, like me usually at competitions, jumping up and down, doing all this stuff is making my heart race more. It's making me less dialed in. I'm focusing on the crowd more than my trick or my
Mm,
opponent. And it's really just putting that energy where it needs to be, I feel like is what I'm working on the most of. I feel like they're rewatching my round with Ryoga over and over again. There's a few moments where I look at the crowd and like I went up there with the shirt on just to take it off because I thought that was super funny. And it didn't help with my competition.
uh,
I'm putting this energy in other places that it doesn't need to be. I tied my bandana in a different way, and it was the whole competition for that finals match. And man, I mean, Ryoga's so good, and
mhm.
well, I mean, yeah, you look at Ryoga for example. That guy, everybody's practicing, and Ryoga, you see him behind the Lotus booth. He's taking a nap. He's sleeping. Like, like he practiced however much he needed to practice before the comp, but the day of, he's catching his Z's, he's kind of vibing with his 10 taps, and he goes up on stage and he slaughters fools, man.
Mhm.
And it's just, I think it works for him. That works for him, and
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, you have the breathing, you have the stretching. This is obviously something you really like doing, something that has benefited you. You also mentioned some videos you listened to. The nerves, is there any other insights you can give us on handling nerves on stage in the comp during or before that you haven't mentioned already? Something that you use, something that benefits you.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people get in their heads about like whether they're gonna land the trick or
Hmm.
not like that. They're gonna sit there and they're gonna be like, you better land this in your head, or like this, it's all or nothing, or like this is it. But it's like
Hmm.
when you really let go of winning and let go of losing and just know fully what you can do, that's where it like the flow state and all this stuff kind of comes in to play because you've let go of all the stuff. You breathe, long exhale, your heart rate is slow. You know what the fuck you can do. Just do it. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
a lot of people get in their heads. I have an issue because like a lot of opponents that I have, they're my friends. And we're all
Hmm.
kendama players, we're all homies, we're all this stuff. But my issue is like, man, I'm like, I I will never stop dabbing fools up or giving them hugs on stage or anything like that. But as soon as I step back into my trick, I need to have the eye of the tiger and I need to let go of them being my friend. Because right then I'm trying to beat them. I'm
Hmm.
trying to beat them. I'm trying to land this trick more times, more consistently, better than they can. And when I'm just like smiling and stoked for them and putting that energy towards them, it's diminishing how honed I am in that moment.
Yeah.
And these are all learning experiences. I do good in comp. I have my process and stuff, but there will forever be that learning, and the energy needs to come more towards my tricks, me breathing, smiling, dabbing them up. It's sick. They just landed a hard ass trick and got a point on me. Let's go, dude. That's awesome. That's what I would want them to do if I got a point. I'm
Mm.
kind of like, come on, man, when they don't dab me up when I when I get a point, they're all bummed about themselves. And it's like, dude, that was sick. What do you mean? So,
Well, I can kind of understand why they wouldn't.
right?
I have an inkling.
Right,
They just you scored a point on them.
right,
They're
right.
now losing, or they're getting caught up to.
Uh,
I have an inkling of why they would not, but yeah.
right. Like seeing Ryoga, man, he's just got the eye of the tiger.
Yeah,
He is,
always.
dude, when he saw me get that second point in a row, he like took this breath and he gave me a fist bump, but he just like looked at the ground and he knew what he could do and he did
Yep.
it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like I already met my goal and I was already feeling it. It's world champ. I mean, there's a way for me to beat this guy, but there's almost no way for me to beat this guy. I got to be so consistent and so next level to where it's like so he's coming from Japan to the NAKO. He barely speaks English. He as soon as the event's over, he's going back to Japan. He's not, he's not from America, so it's like getting second place at the NAKO and him getting first. I'm still the number one ranking American
Hmm.
in that division, just all together. So I feel like, in a sense, while I was on the stage, I'd already defended my title. I had already gotten that back, and for him to take that dub and for me to take that dub was exponential. But man, I definitely need to like tap into like he's not my friend, dude. I gotta kick some ass right now, dude, and let go of like smiling or like I mean not smiling, but like looking at the crowd or the judge or anything. Like look at the trick, dab him up if he gets a point. He dabs me up if I get a point, and
Yeah.
we just fucking lock in because that's the. I mean, yeah, that's my biggest fault right now. I think is they're everybody's my friend.
Yeah. I like what you're talking about of first of all, yeah, Ryoga, you're not gonna have many chances to anybody playing him, you're not gonna have many chances to get points. If he's
Right?
not gonna miss that many times. If he misses once, he's most likely not going to miss twice. And if he misses
No.
three times, that's like a miracle for his
Yeah, dude.
opponent. That's literally a miracle. So yeah, not and yeah, you were the highest ranking American at that comp. So congratulations on that aspect. I mean, being the highest ranking American there at 116 other players, 115 other players besides you and him. I mean, that's absolutely massive. So yeah, well done. Well done there. And you mentioned that you're focusing on your biggest thing that you're trying to conquer and get better at right now is really where focusing your energy in places and being really intentional where you're focusing your energy on stage. So I really like what you said about having the eye of the tiger and also but more so the mindset of okay, this person we're not yeah, even though you're friends, of course you're friends with most people you compete with, but you're not friends in that moment because you're literally trying to beat each other and move on and knock each other out. Single
Right.
elim. There's not a come back and get me in the next round. And no, it's single elim. You've knocked them out of the competition that they
Right.
practice for. So I like that. I like that mentality. I think I mean, it only makes sense at the pro level. And especially,
Right.
and I've been talking to actually I've been doing interviews with most of the champions from the divisions at NAKO. And I talked to the intermediate winner Cole yesterday, and he has an AM winner Jake the other day as well. And, it's, I think there's some parallels in this conversation where recognizing that yes, the Kendama community, we're really lucky. It's very friendly, of course. 99% of people you're probably going to get along good with.
Right.
But at this competition level, it's competition for a reason. And it's really cool how you're starting and you've made a lot of progress towards getting over the hump, that mental hump of, okay, we're all friends, like we're all just having fun no matter what, to I'm going to level this up. I'm going to take it up a notch. I'm going to beat this person in respect, of course, but I'm going to beat this person because this
Right.
is what I'm here. This is what I want to do. This aligns with my goals right here. So I really like how you brought that up, and I think a lot of people who are listening can take value away from that in the sense that they can apply that same mindset as well. Because again, you're not saying that you have the competitive mentality, you're a respectful dude, and I think that can be applied to all divisions, not just pro. And of course, it makes the most sense at pro, but it's the highest skill level, most competitive. But other divisions too. There are other people in the other divisions who are wanting to win just as bad. They just don't have the hours yet that pros
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
dude.
My energy has been going into being nice instead of landing my tricks, and that has been a big eye opener. And like, man, again with that Johnny Crest round, that was honestly like out of all the rounds, that one was the biggest for me because, um, 2 years ago, 2022 NAKO, I I was on Chrome at the time,
Hmm.
and I was looking for a new sponsor because Chrome was not working out.
Yeah.
And so I had offers from a lot of people, and I was very much in my head about a few different things.
Hmm.
And I got into top eight, and my first match in top eight was against Johnny Kress. And he's a beast, and I was scared, you know. Before I go on stage, I grabbed a fresh plasticity CK shape. It was brand new. Dude, what am I doing over here, man? I'm like I
I'm
did
just
not
trying not to
strategize that
interject, man.
well. Dude,
Yeah,
it was
that is
not.
wow. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, keep going.
Oh, yeah, man. It was not the right move. And of course, first few tricks are stall tricks. And Johnny Kress is the king of shaking and still landing. And he is just up there in stall like this because he was nervous too, but it stays in stall because his dom is good at stalls. And mine just slid off, and he kicked my ass, man. He kicked my ass, and I went into the alleyway after that match, and I sobbed. I was so sad because I knew how much better I was than that, and it was very upsetting for me. I'm like, Edwin, what are you doing, man? Like, you're better than that.
Hmm.
And I actually had a really good conversation with Kevin DeSoto about just like people pleasing and like taking myself to the next level and letting go of past things. And I mean, that was a fantastic conversation. Shout out Kevin DeSoto, my guy. But coming back 2 years later, going up against him in top four, it was, I don't know. I don't know. I've rewatched that round over and over again. And there's a few things like it's like he can't even look at me. I fist bump him, and he's looking at the ground when he fist bumps me, and he was very much in his head. I don't know if that was from the practice or not, or like
Hmm.
what was going down on stage, but there was like this. It was like because when you practice and stuff, you get in your head in the right way, and then you can practice too much, and I feel like I don't practice enough in the way that he does, and then there's like a balance, and I feel like there was just man, I did really good in that round, and I beat him in a very fashionable style, and it felt very good, and I was like, man, I have gotten better. These past 2 years have been massive for me, and I just beat the guy who like I mean, Crest turned it around for me. Honestly, beating me in that match 2 years ago really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and then coming back doing that good in that round was like a checkpoint, dude. It was just like go. So I
Yeah.
all the love to Crest, dude. He killed it also. He did so good. And he had me really scared up there. So I just yeah, shout out Crest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I actually forgot about that match, but honestly, that was one of the matches I remember most of 2022 at NAKO when you guys played each other. And back then, I mean, John is my boy, and he's been my boy for he's one of my
Oh
best
yeah.
friends in life, and I was so hyped to see him win that match, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
But I remember it being a good match. I don't think he destroyed you. I think it was actually relatively close, honestly. I don't
Right.
remember the score, but I remember it being a competitive, a close match. So that made it even more hype for whoever the winner would be out of that match. And I remember
Right.
you going up there with the plasticity. I was confused, but hey, I was like, maybe
It was
Edwin.
fresh out of the box, not
Dude, I was
15
like,
seconds
maybe
before
Edwin
stage.
is honing this or something.
No,
I don't
no.
know.
Dude, oh
But
man.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, so it's cool to hear your insights on your in-game experiences, what you're noticing against Johnny, what you're noticing may or may not be working for him versus how what is working for you.
Right.
It's really cool to hear the in-game analysis of your thoughts right there, which is it's really cool. And that yeah, bringing it back to that old match, the 2022 match, that's a massive win for you, and I can totally see how that's a huge like checkpoint in a journey of
Yeah.
progression. So yeah, mad props because that's a huge
Thank you.
turnaround.
Yeah, I think that and that match with Johnny in open division and the round and freestyle that I did were the those were the two biggest moments that proved to me where I'm at with Kendama.
Hmm.
And like Yeah, yeah, those were
Yeah.
the
Yeah. What and something you said earlier that I definitely want to highlight when in the midst of you were talking about how day of practice it doesn't really matter at all. You put the practice in before. It's all about knowing what you're capable of. You mentioned knowing what you're capable of multiple times. Where does knowing what you're capable of come from
Mm.
for you?
Oh man. Well, man, I'm somebody who's listened to a bit of like David Goggins and
Sure.
knows a bit about his process and stuff like that. And he refers to this thing called the cookie jar, which
Hmm.
is a really cool thing to tap into. And it's pretty, the cookie jar is just something that is full. The cookies, let's say, are your accomplishments and things that you have done that are massive in the past. And even if they're massive to most, they're not. They're big to you. And just when you're going through a hard moment, let's say you're running for a long time, you tap into your cookie jar when you want to stop running, and you know what you can do because you've done it however many times before. When you're on stage and you're having a hard time in a round or something, and you need to lock in, you tap into that cookie jar. You're like, man, I've locked in before. I've
Hmm.
done good in comp. I've been in this situation before, and I've come out of it before. I can do it again. And that is where you just know because you've done it before. Or if you haven't, that's where the practice I feel like comes into play because practicing for me, like I practiced a lot for this event, but really tried not to do it too much. And there was some tricks that I feel like I could have definitely gotten better at and practiced more of. But I tried them as much as I could, and until I would land them 3 times in a row, trick by trick, level by level.
Hmm.
And when you go on stage and you've landed this trick like 800 times,
Yeah.
you know what you can do. You know what
Yeah.
you can do, and you tap into that cookie jar that you've landed this 800 times before,
Yeah.
land it again.
Yeah. So
Yep.
so so basically what you're referring to is the specific comp practice that you put in. And so you mentioned a little method there about what you're doing 3 times in a row. How did you was that your main strategy for practicing for the comp? Because everybody practices for comps differently. What
Yep.
exactly was your full strategy leading up to the comp? And how did you go about practicing the tricks?
Oh man. Well, I'll tap into my last year way that I was competing again or like practicing was I was going just like, you have the list level one or it's trick 1 through 30, level one, two, three, and you do the level one tricks. You don't skip tricks, you don't skip levels. You do the level one tricks one by one, and you don't move on to the next trick until you land that trick 3 times in a row.
Hmm.
And last year I Chris June told me that did like Nick would do a thing, and I asked him about this and he said that he didn't do this, but which is super funny. You do the trick 3 times in a row, but if you're bad at it, like if it's a trick that you don't have is good, then you do it until you get it 10 times in a row. And I that's what I was doing last year, dude. I would do the trick that I was bad at until I landed it 10 times in a row.
Incredible.
And I had this Tama, this natty Tama that had there was no bevel drilled in it. So it was factory Tama and the hole was flawlessly the size of the spike. So you literally have to have like you have to have it perfect. And it's a Dama that you can't really do stilts or birds on and stuff like that, but like
Hmm. Oh, I know what you're talking
man,
about. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
oh yeah, it's that's what I was practicing on last year for the competition. So like
Wow.
when the trick would come up, oh, I did this for like 10 times in a row on a no bevel natty. Like I can just do it all day on this massive bevel fusion. That's super.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that I honestly could have implemented that 10 times in a row a little bit more.
Hmm.
This competition, this one, I really just did the 3 times in a row for all the tricks, and then once I'd make it through, I would just start over at level one, trick one, and make my way through the list again.
Yeah.
And there were some tricks like Mateo Chance. I would just do that trick, and it would take me a little bit to land it 3 times in a row. And once I did, I'd just move on. But I
Hmm.
should have sat there and grinded it for 2 more hours until I landed it 10 times in a row. Because then that's where the That, if you land that 10 times in a row, nobody else is doing it like that. Nobody else is
No.
practicing like that. And it's just like it's all day. Ryoga can do that 10 times in a row right now in front of your face. Dude, it's like
So okay, so massive emphasis on the consistency. I love that 10 times in a row. That is elite. That is
yeah,
absolutely elite. And honestly, even even going through the list regularly and getting them 3 times in a row. Because if you're doing every trick 3 times in a row and the top 8 tricks too, that's elite as well. So that's
yeah,
also really, really amazing to hear. I laughed a bit there because when you said Nick said that because when you said that Chris said Nick said that because I mean, hey, I'm not Nick. I've also lived with Nick for
yeah,
like pretty much my entire life
right,
and practiced with all these comps. Not once has he ever done that.
right.
So,
It's not even like
so not once has he ever done that. But that is a
and I
real. If you
coach.
can reach that standard, yes,
Right, right. That's what
yes,
I'm saying. I think that's where Kendama is going, is to this like elite next level. Right now, I feel like most people try and do the 3 times in a row, and they might skip tricks or levels to
right.
tricks they're more comfortable with, and then harder tricks go along, and they'll do a trick that's easier for them one time, and then they move on to the next trick. And if the next trick's hard for them, they'll do it till they land it 3 times in a row, so that they're not putting too much energy into tricks they already can do,
Mm.
and they're really getting down tricks that whatever. But what we need to be doing is we need to be doing the tricks that we're good at 3 times in a row, and then the tricks we're bad at 10 times in a row. Really changing that one to a three and that three to a 10.
Switching the standard.
Yeah.
Switching the standard. Yeah, dude. I mean, hey, if if people are letting that, I mean, that's like a huge, huge confidence. That's a huge foundation of confidence to have. Of huge,
Exactly.
no, huge, huge demonstration of literally knowing what you can do. That is when you have that self proof, it's hard to lose.
Yeah, and they're doing it that the day of the comp, they're practicing till they get it 3 times in a row. But if you've been doing it for a month and a half till you get it 10 times in a row, you definitely don't have to practice the day of. You can warm up some of the tricks so you kind of can feel them out before your rounds, but you've doubled, tripled, quadrupled the numbers that they have been trying to get to the day of. A
Mm-hmm.
month before the comp has already happened.
Hmm.
So it's like
Yeah,
my
it's just
background,
numbers. I mean,
my background says lock in JIT, and I feel like that's like I like see that every day, and I feel like I need to lock in, dude. It's so funny.
what? So how many hours would you say you put into NAKO practice this year overall? If you could just give a little estimate.
Oh, I mean, probably 2 days, maybe 48 hours all together.
Yeah.
Like just all crammed. I think probably 2 days fully of competing, which is like nothing. Like I feel like that's light work. I need to be doing more, and
Of practice, right?
huh?
Oh, it's 48 hours of practice, right?
All together, yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and just I can do bet more than that. We got a month and a half of practice. I could have 3 weeks of hours lined up, dialed in, doing the tricks 10 times in a row, and I go up on stage and I actually have some confidence against Ryoga. Let's say,
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, I just got my second point in a row. I didn't expect that. You
Yeah.
know, man, just if I had landed the tricks 10 times in a row, let's say, that confidence would have been there. The eye of the
Hmm.
tiger would have been there, I feel like. And I mean, there will always be growth, whether you do them 10 times in a row or you want to try and get them 20 times in a row. That's like the human thing. We want to keep doing something. But also, something else that I really found out before the competition that I was leaning on every single day of the comp, and like a month before the comp, and still do, like since the comp, is expectations lead to future resentments.
Hmm.
And you got to supplement the resentment or the expectation with, for me, what's worked the best is love and gratitude.
Okay.
So not having any expectations is not good, because then you don't have standards, and then you're kind of like falling off in this spiral effect, and it's like whatever. But I still have standards, which comes with expectations. But when, let's say, little expectations don't get met, like 2 turn cush airplane, 2.5 swap, 2 turn throw cush airplane. I landed that every single time on stage until I went up against Cress. He missed it, and then I missed it. But you can see the difference between when he missed it and I missed it, because I feel like he might have been beating himself up in his head or something like, I should have landed that. He expected to land that. And when he didn't, he resented himself in that moment for it. And I feel like when I let go of that expectation, and when I missed it, I didn't resent myself for it. You can see the clip. I just nod my head. That's how it goes. And then we move on, and I ended up getting that point. He missed it a second time because I feel like maybe that slight resentment, or what some other people might use a different word, but that resentment like ended up overflowing into the next try. So just letting go of those small expectations for you to land the trick right then, and just being, I mean, grateful to be there at all, like just loving the game. I love this toy, dude. I'm so grateful to be able to be up here against somebody so elite and do good. It's crazy, man. So
Yeah.
that helped me like crazy. I had a picture of Chicken Joe from Surfs Up on my phone the whole competition because that I mean, if whoever's seen Surfs Up, he does not care at all. He has no expectations. He's out there on his surfboard, like mid competition, and he's like, "Oh, that cloud looks like a kitten," and then like a wave comes up, and then he's like, "Oh snap, there's a wave," and then he starts riding the wave, and they're like, "Chicken Joe with a no paddle drop in." It's like he ends up winning the whole competition, and they're like, "How does it feel to get first?" And he's like, "I won." He's like, "What?" And I feel like that was a huge mentality at this competition where I was just like, man, the color on that poster behind the stage is super cool. And just like really just kind of not worrying, letting go of the expectations to defend my title,
Yeah.
knowing that there's failure in that success, and just knowing what I can do. We're out
Yeah.
here, we're loving it, you know.
It sounds like it sounds like there's a big emphasis on two things here. One, the preparation you put in before, knowing you can do, actually putting the self-proof in. Because without that, it's just I don't know what that would even I'm struggling to find a word for it. But if you I don't think you it'd be really, really hard to have that type of conviction you have in yourself and the type of the self-proof if you actually didn't give yourself anything to go off of. It'd just be
Right.
false, it'd be the worst form of false confidence. And I mean, overall it'd just be dishonesty towards yourself. So it sounds like you place a big emphasis on putting the work in, of course, but also it sounds like through what you're talking about is accepting that whatever happens kind of happens. Would that sound kind of relate to what you're talking about?
Yeah, man, whatever's supposed to happen will happen. And it's
Yeah.
about how you bounce back. You have to put cookies into your jar to be able to grab from later. If you don't have any cookies, that's where the practice comes in. If you didn't practice at all, you don't got any cookies,
Yeah.
and then your jar's empty, whatnot. So you gotta, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I totally understand where you're coming from. And it's, I think, yeah, it sounds like you've definitely leveled up your mindset in the past couple of comps, which has been really, really cool to see. So I'm stoked to hear about the developments. And as you said, there's always growth. So there's always going to be more to do and more levels to reach. So I'm really, really excited. And, maybe next year, that could easily be you over Ryoga in the final, man. I mean, I think so. So, one thing I want to ask you though, too, is how many hours do you usually play a week of just general kendama, Edwin?
why? I get asked that a lot by like random people too. They're like, "How much do you play?" And
Hmm.
I always refer to like the in like middle school. So it was like seventh grade. I stopped going to school,
Hmm.
and then I played kendama for 10 hours a day for 3 years straight,
Hmm.
which put me well over the 10,000 hour mark, and just kind of like did whatever it did. But I just always have a kendama on me now.
Hmm.
If I don't have a dama on me, I feel naked. It's like I gotta have my dama, and whether I'm playing switch or right-handed, the kendama is on me. And if there's like a comp coming up or something like that, I'll play much more than I usually do. But I feel like there's just like a fine balance of playing like almost too much and too little. And I feel like I'm just right on the in between of that, where I'm just playing when I can play. If
Yeah.
I can play and I'm just kind of not feeling it right then, I'll try with my left hand a little bit. If I'm still not feeling it, I'll tap into something like a knuckle bone or something to
Yeah.
just like does something similar that the kendama does. So I mean, just doing my best to not put like time and energy towards scrolling. I feel like is the biggest thing. Like
Mm.
my energy in other places besides scrolling. Because if you're juggling, it's really cool actually. All these like fidget toys and stuff, they help with other things. So if you get really good at juggling, it's gonna help you get better at kendama. You're gonna pick up your kendama and you're gonna see it in a different way. You're gonna play it a different way, and you're gonna be like, "What the hell is going on? This is amazing."
Yeah.
If you're really good at juggling already, and you pick up a kendama and you start getting good at it, it's gonna help your juggling. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's man, when Nick started getting crazy at juggling, I got scared, man. I was like, oh no, dude. You just know he's getting so much better at Dama while he's juggling like 7 balls, dude. It's crazy. Oh
I agree
man.
with you. The skill crossover between these hand-eye, different hand-eye skills, sports, whatever. I think it's huge. It just helps in all ways. It helps your hand-eye in different ways. So it's just I think it's only a benefit no matter what. I feel like there's definitely crossovers between everything.
Yeah.
And in terms of okay, so you didn't give us a number of hours you play right now. If you could say just right now, and honestly, this it's less important than what you are actually what you already said about playing 10 hours a day for 3 years straight is what I want to go into next because that's already but just for the sake of now, I mean, if you had to put an estimate on it, I mean, it doesn't have to be great. You have to, yeah,
Um, I
per
mean,
week.
if you put in all the hours, it's probably 2 days of playing, like a
Okay.
week. So 48 hours maybe
Yeah, yeah.
altogether of playing a week,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe a little more. But I mean, every week's different, every
Right.
day's different. Things like that. I need to fill some like crochet orders, so I'll be putting more
Yep.
hours towards crocheting than kendama. But again, it helps the dama, and the dama helps the crochet, so it's like
Totally.
it's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, and the reason I asked Edwin is because I just wanted to highlight the amount of work that you actually do put in. Because I think a lot of people, and look, everybody has different lives, different interest level in Kendama, and different amount of time they want to put in Kendama. I
Yeah,
acknowledge that. But I wanted to highlight just the amount of work that you do and you have put in because a lot of people I think can don't really maybe I think there's two types of people in my head right now. Like one first, maybe players I think they're working pretty hard that are probably doing I don't know like a tenth of what you're doing, and they think they just don't know that there's levels to this that people they don't know the levels that other players reach,
yeah,
like what you do, and number two, just people who aren't yeah kind of what I just said aren't even aware of that you can that people are that there are you can take it this far that there are people taking this far with Konami with the amount of hours they're putting in. And so I wanted to highlight that because you are at the pro level and you're at the pro level for a reason. You know, you don't get there by not putting in the work. And everybody, I think a lot of people, it's so easy to think of nowadays, especially in Kendama. Nick and I did a survey, a community survey. You answered it, which we really appreciate. We did a community survey, and a lot of people's concerns. I saw a lot of similar responses in the sense of, "Oh, what's your biggest problem in Kendama right now?" Or "What's or what are your biggest struggle?" It's, "Oh yeah, well, I don't feel like I'm good enough," or "I have a hard time feeling like ah man, I need to be better," or all these pros just they're so good and I don't know how they're that good or it's and I think people don't I think people have forget maybe nowadays with all the stuff they're seeing when they're scrolling that they obviously don't see the work that people are putting in. And I think maybe people think that it just happens overnight. And some people are just blessed and God with God-given talent when that's really not the case
yeah,
of, I don't think anybody picks up Kanama and is landing triple lunar flips in like 3 days. That's not how pros are made. You know, I mean, a lot of times and most of the time, and as I've just discovered with you, and of course that I already knew it already, but just a lot of times the pros are obviously the ones putting the most work in comparison to others. And I just really wanted to highlight that. Another thing I wanted to ask you was this. You mentioned you played 3 hours, 10 hours a day for 3 years straight, and then now you play just short of 50 hours a week, give or take. You know, every week's different, as you said.
yeah,
What in a wide range up there.
yeah.
However, you mentioned you way past 10,000 hours of Kendama. That's
Oh, yeah.
massive. That's
Yeah,
huge.
I did some math like kind of deal a few months ago, like adding up the 10 hours a day for 3 years and then like just kind of roughly what I think that I've been putting into kendama on and off since then. And
Yep.
I've definitely like and I rounded down. I made sure to round down so that my like I know that whatever came up on my calculator was more than that,
Yeah.
and it was still at like 21,000 hours,
Yeah.
maybe more. So it was just you know, I mean, yeah, everybody's different. People do have different love for the game or like different drive or whatever. I feel like if I found kendama now, I would have like I would be driven for it. But I found kendama when I was a kid for a reason, and man, I quit school. I landed juggle spike. I landed juggle spike by accident, and I was like, I'm done. Like it's school, like it's what. And I'm not saying for people to do that, but that's what happened with me. Like this school
Hmm.
thing was not working, and this is what I want to do. This kendama thing is it right here. I landed juggle spike, and I knew.
Hmm.
And I mean, here we are. It really just, man, I love kendama.
Yeah, dude. No, it's super evident that you have a massive passion for the game, and it's so cool to hear how much time you put in. You just hit a number there at 21,000 hours. That is a number you're confident is at the minimum that you've played. You
Yeah,
know,
man.
your confidence is the minimum. And a lot of players don't even reach 10,000 hours period with this ever,
Right,
ever,
right,
or in anything, honestly, of any other hobby that they don't have to, mandatorily do.
right.
So I think that's really, really cool. And I wanted to highlight that because I know how much work I know how much work you put in, and I know how much you've always been one of those passionate players. So I just wanted to highlight that for people to hear. And also, this is a good question. I think I haven't actually asked anybody, but what do you think is more important for competition prep? Comp specific practice or just playing Kendama in general? What do you think is more important?
I'm just playing kendama. Because just doing open division tricks or whatever, because we have like the World Cup app now, and you can make runs from the 2014 tricks and like
Hmm.
just do those all day. But like if you just play kendama all day, it's gonna help with your open division and it's gonna help with your freestyle. And I think there's always a balance. There's always a
Yep.
balance. So if you're not doing any sort of like um set tricks, there isn't going to be too much growth towards open division. But if you're not just playing kendama all the time and you're only doing open division tricks, there's not going to be much exponential growth in your flow or anything like that. So I think there is definitely like a fine line, but just playing kendama is the most important part, dude. If somebody's sitting there and they're only doing open division tricks all day, they love kendama, but they hate their life. Like they're sitting there like pissed all the time at this toy. It's like, man, I mean, like good luck with that because there's not going to be much growth in that. When you're on stage smiling, grateful to be there at all, it's like that is the I feel like the moment where you can really just like skyrocket or grow as a person and a player.
Hmm. I love that. I love that, dude. I love that perspective because, you know, the reason why I bring that up is because, at first you mentioned, and we obviously talked about this already, but you mentioned practice doesn't, it doesn't matter how much you practice. And then we found out, okay, you mean day of and you practice beforehand
Yeah,
and stuff. But, and you also mentioned that, you've done really well in competitions, not practicing at all. And I asked, and also Alex Mitchell doesn't practice for competitions until the day of. So you
that's
guys
what
are
I'm
literally
saying.
the opposite. You guys are literally the opposite, it sounds like. He only practices day of. He only knows about the tricks day of. So, and he does really well.
Yeah,
But you know what? I think a common theme between the both of you, and that has contributed that what, in my perspective, Edwin, as an outside in watching you guys, being fans of both of your guys' play, what I think is the overlapping factor that both you have is the amount of time you guys have actually put into Kendama.
yeah.
And I honestly think that if you didn't practice for NAKO, I still think you would have made it to day three. I still think you would have made it to day three. I don't know if you would have gotten as far as you did, but maybe you would have. I'm not sure, but I'm confident you would have made it to day three. It's actually not even a doubt in my mind. And Alex Mitchell, he only practices day of, so objectively, he's already putting in, I don't know, 10 times less hours than anybody in that
Right.
division towards the tricks. But if you look at how much he has played in his life, it's more than 99% of pros. You might
Oh
be
yeah,
I
you
mean, I don't know if he has many hours as you, but he's got to be pretty close. I mean, it's some aspect. I mean, he's put in so many hours in a very concentrated amount of time. You said you had your 3 year stint of playing 10 hours a day. He also had his couple of year stint of playing 8 hours a day
right
every single day. And I think that
every
that
day,
plays
dude.
And I think you guys both have such a big foundation. And I think that honestly, from my perspective, that is a huge, huge reason why that Alex can go into comps. And I'm going to say this also, he's an anomaly in the sense of this. Most players put in work and they have to practice. They have to practice though. He doesn't put in work. He doesn't put in the specific practice for it.
Right.
But I think I really believe that he's able to do as well as he can, even after maybe not touching Kendama or not even playing Kendama that much previous to a comp. I believe he's able to do so well because of that foundation that he's built for himself with the hours. And I see
Yeah.
the same thing in you because you're a guy who has that huge foundation, but you still progressively put in the work. And that's why I think you're going to be so, so great. Like you aren't like even greater, continue to continue to grow at an exponential rate like you already have been in the past couple of years. But I really wanted to share my perspective on that because there are players and comp specific practice is great and all, and it's obviously important, but I really like what you said right there, and I think that means a lot coming from you, someone who's done so well in previous competitions year after year, about the border, getting second. You're winning last year, NAKO. You got second this year. I think that's so huge coming from you because it really highlights what's really important here. Comp specific practice for comp, or just playing in general. And you said play in general.
Yeah. 100%. I think that after playing for so long, putting so many hours in, like Mitchell, he doesn't practice until the day of. He's played so much. You can just put whatever trick you want in front of him, and he'll probably land it within the next minute or so, less, because he's just that good.
Yeah.
Ryoga, he's played so much. He is so good. He doesn't need to dial in or do whatever. He knows you could put any trick. He's sitting in a circle and people are just telling him the most mind-blowing tricks and he's just doing them because he's put in the hours. You can give him whatever trick and he's going to do it. You give him what he wouldn't have to practice the tricks until he gets on the stage and they pull the card and he reads the trick and he'll just do it because he's put in that amount of hours. He knows he can land that trick. And I feel like, I mean, for some people that works better. I feel like for me, it's more of a balance for sure, where it's
Mm-hmm.
just like seeing the trick, being like, oh, I got that all day, but also being able to tap into that cookie jar and being like, I've also done that 10 times in a row, like
Yeah.
over and over again. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. And yeah, Ryoga, I mean, I don't know how many hours he's played, but hey, dude's been playing since he was 5. He's almost had a 10-year mark and he's 13. So
Dude.
we can let people imagine how much, everybody remembers how much free time they had when they were in high school, let alone being freaking elementary schooler. So yeah, I just want to, yeah, real quick, you did, you guys in the open match, you guys did have like a large, large break between the third place match and the finals in your open match. It
Oh
was a
my,
large break. And I went over to the Lotus booth and you and Ryoga were just sitting there. And I feel, first of all, I'm feeling bad for you guys. I feel
yeah,
bad. I'm like, they were in the zone earlier and now God knows how much time has passed, but I don't know where they are. I'm going to go see what they're doing or see if I can find them. I just see you guys doing just chilling,
yeah,
not practicing, just chilling. I said, okay. I mean, I literally asked you and you literally said, like, okay, well, you guys aren't honing and you were like, yeah, I'm not getting any better at these tricks. But did
yeah.
that throw you off? Did you get thrown off by that, or was it kind of just whatever? The
Well, I
break.
mean, like, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but I thought that was absolute garbage, dude.
Mm,
Whatever they, I know that there was some important stuff talked about, and there was some emotion being spread across from the stage to the crowd, and it was important. But dude, we have a finals match to get after. This is the event. Talk about that stuff after this match is over. Me and you, we're in the finals at Battle at the Border at midnight. It's like, dude, what's going on, bro? Let us compete, man. It's like it's crazy. Some they like want to wait. They want to make it like more exciting, but it's like, dude, we're in the zone. We're feeling our rounds. We're kicking ass, taking names, and you're just gonna cut us off like that. I thought that definitely could have been planned out a little better. Me and Ryoga, he's like giving me his translator. He's like, what he said, what's going on? He's like, and then the next one was like, we should be on stage. And I was like, dude, I know we should be, but we weren't for a long time. I don't think it diminished anything at all. I mean, he was able to catch up on a couple of Z's, and I definitely like I kind of just kicked it. And I mean, I feel like if we're just in the zone and we went up on stage, for me personally, I might have not put on that shirt to take it off. I might have not retied my bandana that
hmm
certain way. I might have just went up there, crispy as I was, and maybe got a third point. Who knows? Um, but the way they ran that last round was garbage. That was
Hmm.
garbage.
Hmm. I think from my perspective, I do think that you said you didn't take away from anything. I noticed a takeaway in the crowd. I
Oh, big.
noticed it wasn't as hype for an open finals match. It didn't have the hype it I think it deserved, and I think that a large part had to do with the time between. Of course, I'm assuming that they're totally conscious of this and they're going to make improvements for next year. I do think that they would have had the incentive for people to stay around to listen to those speeches because they did have a raffle at the end, so that's a pretty huge incentive for people to stay. But I mean, I'm sure they'll improve it next year. But I
Right.
definitely noticed a difference in the overall interest for the Open Finals. Usually, it's the most interested thing. I looked at the room and I said, "There's not enough people in here for this. There's not enough
Yeah,
people here."
dude, it
So
was it was
yeah,
interesting. I feel like what was talked about and the way things were went about during that break was energetically draining. Not just for, I mean, just the crowd, for the competitors also. Like it was definitely just all around, it was super energetically draining and it would have just been more proper after that finals round. It
hmm
was some important stuff and it needed to be touched up on. Homie needs to express his feelings and people need to hear about it. But man, we got to compete. We got money to win. We got tricks to land. And we have a crowd that needs to be stoked for us to be up there and kick ass. It's like, man, that definitely, it was like, I mean, however hyped they were at whatever point after that break, it was less than 50% as hype. It was just more than half of the room was just less hype. It was very interesting. I
yeah.
don't know. We should, yeah.
But
It went
overall, okay, yeah. Oh,
it
and
went
so
how it was supposed to
overall,
go.
right. Overall, you just found it weird, but you didn't feel personally super thrown off. Like you were still doing your thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
felt dialed. I still
yeah,
got those 2 points. I did better than I thought I was gonna do.
yeah,
And we both went up there, and Ryoga was super honed. I was
yeah.
super honed. We could have competed at midnight, and we would have still been honed. We would have still gotten after the tricks and whatnot. It was definitely, it didn't take away too much, but I definitely agree. It didn't take away from me in Ryoga as much as it did from the crowd. And I
hmm
think that's maybe even more important than the competitors being like on point and more
Yeah,
hype, like and crispy, because we'll be crispy.
right.
We can do the tricks, whatnot. The
Yeah,
crowd's not going to be hyped forever.
right.
So it's like really, you live
Yeah.
and you learn.
Live and learn. Yeah, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm I'm no doubt that they'll make the necessary improvements next year for that specific scheduling piece for sure. So yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because that was definitely a stick out moment for me for the open division. But
Oh,
I
massive.
wanna I wanna take it over to freestyle.
Yeah.
So, obviously for everybody there, you had one of the most surprising matches in freestyle. And so I you went through three freestyle matches, and freestyle was insane. It was a lot of time throughout the event, but you went through three matches in freestyle. You got through Don Maluk, Josh Kim,
Yep.
Austin Griswold. Josh Kim was 2-1, I believe you, but
Yep.
every other match was 3-0 you. And
Yeah.
then now you're in the rounds of 16 against Alex Mitchell, and that was easily one of the most controversial matches of the. It was the most controversial match of the weekend, in my opinion. How
Yeah.
did you feel coming off that match? And for everybody listening, Edwin lost that match at 2-1, I believe. But
Yep.
Edwin, how did you feel coming off that match?
Coming off that match, I went into my breakout room that I was tapping into, and I cried tears of joy because I thought that I would never be able to do those tricks that I did on stage at all. People were coming up to me upset about how it went and stuff. And, honestly, being hyped on the stage, I saw less. So rewatching Mitchell's rounds, I definitely landed more. I definitely like should have won or whatnot. But I was stoked about just all around. We both killed it. And we both just did our thing. And I mean, I just never thought I could be able to do those tricks on stage. Those are like a dream for like anybody. So like
Yeah.
to come off that stage after landing that stuff and people being pissed really was upsetting for me, man. I had to tell a couple people, don't look at me like that. Why are you upset right now? You didn't lose the match. I'm stoked, and I'm the one who lost the match. What just happened on stage was beautiful, and you're upset right now. Like, don't even talk to me. Like, I'll
Hmm.
talk to you later. It was definitely just like so many people were so upset, and it like took away from the hype of what just happened on the stage. A lot of people were stoked and were like, "Good job," but they're like, "Oh, you should have won." I didn't. Okay, and Mitchell, I told Mitchell too because on the stage we picked up our bandanas, and he told me, he's like, "Dude, you beat me." And I looked at him and I was like, "It's not over till it's over." I literally said that to him.
Hmm.
And it wasn't over till it was over. He beat me. At the end of the day, he beat me. And we reconvened in the crowd. And I told him, I was just like, "You better do good in spirits of me. Take that energy." Because a lot of people felt like I should have been in the place that he was in. So I was just like, "Just do good, man." And he killed it. He climbed to the
He
top.
killed it.
He killed
Yeah.
it. And some people were talking to me. There might have been one or two other matches with Mitchell in it where he won and he shouldn't have won. There was two other matches, I believe. I don't know who was going up against specifically, but a lot of people were like, he should have lost a couple of rounds, and but he didn't. He climbed to the top. He kicked ass. He took names, and sometimes it doesn't matter what happens on stage. It matters what the flags are drawn. Like
Hmm.
I absolutely exponentially proved to myself it was like, I'm so hard on myself, man, with everything. So like that moment of clarity, like all of the hours, all the time, it was worth it, man. It led up to like just taking away all of the open division rounds, that one match, that 1 second round of freestyle against Mitchell made all the hours I've ever put into Dama worth it. It was crazy. And to have like the Kendama World Instagram post it and just be like one of the best freestyles ever, it's like, it's crazy to me, dude. It's absolutely like, I never thought. And it was also cool because I didn't have to worry about any more freestyle matches. I got to ride that high, that insane match, not have to worry about losing again, and I got to just go into open division dialed, and with proof that I'm good at kendama. So I was standing up there a little straighter. I was like, "Man, I got this in the bag." So I it could have went whatever way, but it went the way it was supposed to go. And for anybody who's upset about it, can go take a walk because it's like, dude, it was a beautiful thing that happened on stage.
That is such a refreshing perspective, and I just want to say about how you were so hyped for your performance and going on coming off stage. I want to say, dude, I'm watching the front. Alex goes for who went first?
Mitchell.
So he went first, does pretty good in his first round. You go, you do okay. Coming out
Yeah,
of that round, I said, okay, in my opinion,
he was up.
Alex is up.
Yeah,
You come back, you hit. I'm literally like, I think I texted Nick. I said, dude, were you there for that? Where are you? Like, I was like, bro, where are you? Did you see that? Edwin just had a Yasu run. He just had I was like, I literally texted Nick, yo, Edwin just had a Yasu run. He didn't even miss once, except for one time at the end.
at the
That was,
end.
I gotta say, that was one of the best freestyle rounds that I've ever seen. So I want to give you massive props for that. You threw two six taps in there. And I
Yeah,
know people were six tapping, but you throwing two six taps in between all the combos you did. So, so cool. And just all, I mean, your other combos were way more cooler to me than the taps, but I mean, you throwing those in so casually. Again, was what you said. It was just a huge testament to how much work you put in. So, after coming off stage and I see this huge crowd around you. I want to give you support because but I see a huge crowd. I'm like, okay, well, I'm definitely not getting in that. It's too many people. Like, he's like a freaking 15 people around. I'll talk to him later.
right.
But you know, it's it's this we're talking about should or should have, and a lot of people saying you should have won. You should have won. Maybe other people think you shouldn't have, and that it was a right call. Whatever. The whole should and shouldn't have is completely based on everybody. It's based on completely different things in everybody's minds because I think that it's just so everybody it's so subjective, and but what I want to ask you, dude, is coming off that stage, obviously you're getting a lot of people saying you should have, whatever other stuff. There's obviously a lack of clarity, I think, in the freestyle. I'm sure a part of you was a part of you curious as to the reasonings why you got such a close match and the reasons why you had a such a close call?
Honestly, like I felt like I did super bad in my first round. So I felt like Mitchell, he had more tricks distributed throughout both of his rounds than I did. The tricks that he landed were cleaner than the round, even the round that I did really good in. All his tricks throughout both of his matches were cleaner, and I feel like that might have been like I think the judging system for freestyle is like there's needs to be work done,
Hmm.
but like I came back after that and I gave all the judges, like I gave Coda and Christian Fraser PDOC shirts, and I gave Ben Harold ET Finlay hat, and I dabbed them all up, and I was like, thank you guys. You guys are kicking ass out here. I wasn't mad at them. And I think that all these people are mad because of their expectations, man. They expect the
Mm.
flags to be raised a certain way, and when they don't, they resent the judges or whoever. Let go of that, man. There's no expectation. I didn't expect any flags to be raised or not. I just knew what I did. And in that moment, before I start, when they're counting down, I didn't expect anything for myself.
Right.
I just knew what I could do. I took a controlled inhale and a long exhale, and I fucking played kendama. And it's what it's all about. Let go of those expectations, people.
And yeah, it's easy to criticize those who are in that hard position. The judges are in a very, very difficult. It's a hard job. It's a hard
Yeah,
job. There's no instant replays. There's no instant replays. There's nothing. And the part of being besides being trying to be as objective as possible as that they are doing, it's hard to not be influenced by the sound, the crowd, the being able, maybe they don't remember the matches as much because 3 minutes has passed since Alex's first round, or whatever person who's going first. So
right.
it's a very tough decision. And even I've found after watching these freestyles that I could have a completely different opinion of a match if I watch it back later and I'm not even a judge. If I'm there as a spectator, I could have a skewed or a less objective opinion based on all other stimuluses that I'm experiencing. So I
Right.
think it's a really cool take by you, and you mentioned that the freestyle judging system could be improved.
Yeah.
I was talking with Isaac and Nick a couple days ago, and we mentioned how the main thing that is the main thing that we would like to see is just people, the judges, if it in this type of judging system, not the casual judging system, but this type of judging system, if they would lay down or write down some expectations that they're looking for, that they're looking to, really highlight and look
Yeah.
for during these matches before the comp, so players can know and have some guidance on what to put in and everything.
Right.
If anything off the top of your head, through your experiences in freestyle, that how you would improve the judging system, or in your experience, yeah, as you as a player.
Well, I feel like uh there's a thing with the crowd being upset at the judges. I feel like the judges could have jerseys maybe where like one jersey says consistency, the other one says flow, the other one says whatever. It's like I feel like there could be that on their backs right up here or something so that the crowd can see which judge is judging what. And then the judges not talk to each other at all, them do their own judging for their own category. And I really like how they do it at Catch and Flow, where they raise one flag at a time. I feel like
Mhm.
they could do that as well. But I mean, I wouldn't say that I have the best insight for how the judging should be changed. I just know that it can be much better,
Hmm.
and we're all just learning. I know that, and I watch some UFC here and there, and I know that if they aren't anymore, I know that for a long time they were the judges for the UFC fights were like these old boxing judges.
Hmm.
So when it would come to a split decision to be like who's better or like who actually won that fight, and nobody's knocked out, they're both bleeding the same amount. It's like whatnot. Somebody would lose when they should have won. It was like obvious that they kicked the other guy's ass and they just lost the fight. But the other guy who got his ass kicked was in the middle of the ring the whole time getting his ass kicked, but he was working the other guy to the outskirts of the ring. And for boxing, that's like that means you're dominating the ring.
Yeah.
And whoever dominated the ring, however many rounds, like won the fight when it comes to split decision, I guess. But that's an old judging system that doesn't work for UFC and whatever. So like I hope they changed that by now, but I'm not too sure. But I feel like that's where we're at with Kendama, where it's like there's this old judging system and we're learning new things. Wyatt Bray, he was winning freestyle matches for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, just like really well, doing the same tricks over and over again in every single one of those. And then we started to realize we're like, hey, like these are the same tricks. And then he started like actually like not doing good in these freestyles. And it's I think we could just realize a few things, like the way we go about like I don't know specifically, but it could be better.
Yeah, you recognize that there's room for improvement, and of course, there's room for improvement in everything in all aspects of Konami too. And yeah, and I think the main thing is just, I mean, I trust that the judges. I mean, what would be really cool is to know that the judges are working on something new. I think people acknowledge that. Yeah, many aspects of Konami can be improved, especially competition. And I definitely trust the judges, and they're all smart guys. They're all smart people, and yeah, I know that they're going to be improved. It'll be improved at some point. To have them, I would love to see a tangible change in an upcoming comp, just to spice it up. I mean, who knows if it'll go work right or work better or worse, but I think an attempt at something new, 100%, no matter the outcome, is a step in the right direction. So, yeah,
100%.
so I'm really, yeah, it was nice to hear your perspective on that. Coming into wrapping up this interview, one quick question I want to ask you. You know, you did get in freestyle this year. You're obviously an open player. Would you say you're more of an open player or a freestyle player?
I've always done better in open division.
Okay.
I'm an open player at heart. I've always actually been pretty garbage at freestyle.
Hmm.
But I went to World Cup and they introduced kind of this new freestyle way of going about it or whatnot. Um,
Yep.
and I went up against Shinosuke and I kicked ass. I did really
You
good.
did.
And it opened something, man. I found my flow state. And I feel like it came to light in that second round against Alex Mitchell. It's like this is what I can do, and I can get better from that. So I mean, there's always growth in open and freestyle, but I'm somebody who has always done like super good in open division and not good in freestyle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you've gotten a lot better in the past 6 months at freestyle, and yeah, thank God you were there. But thank God you showed up for the KWC one because I was literally about to go in place of you. But thank God you were
So
there.
yeah.
And even me getting called up. Hey Zach, Edwin's not here, so we're wondering if you. I was like, I mean, sure, but I hope you can find him. He probably wants. He probably. I don't know. I have a feeling he'd be more into this than me right now. I don't, I wish he was here. And then you
Me
start
and the
running up.
no-go, we went to 7-Eleven. We were at
Dude, I
7-Eleven.
literally was like, oh man, Edwin, this is a pretty cool opportunity.
Oh
I have a
man.
feeling you'd like it more than me.
I haven't taken the watch off yet.
Boom, dude. Love it. G-Shock, let's go.
Let's
Let's
go.
go. Dude, that's awesome.
So sick.
And up until this point, dude, I know you have a certain philosophy when it comes to kendama. You like the small shapes, you're big on consistency, doing it in what you think is a proper way. I want to ask you, what are some progression philosophies that you've really stuck to that has gotten you up to this point? People nowadays in Konami are really wondering, how do I progress? What tricks do I go for next? What are some philosophies or some really effective tips of overall general progression that you have applied in your Konami career and have worked really well for you?
Uh, bu- 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 pro- um, Reps, baby. Reps. On small shapes too. You want to grab an OG Azora, Kenko, whatever small shape you can get, and you just sit there and you do the trick over and over again. Like right now, something that I'm gonna get soon is 100 switch trip inward loon flips, and it's there. I did 50 the other day, and it's just reps, dude. If you sit there and you want to trick better, let's say you want to trip inward lunar line, sit there and do trip inward lunars over and over again until you just have them. Or if you want to get birds better, handle stalls better, sit there and do pull up handle stall. Don't even spike it, dude. Just pop it off the handle and do it again,
Yeah.
again, again. You watched Rocky or any one of these things, they'll do it properly and their trainer will just be like, again,
Yeah.
do it again. And that's been a consistent voice in my head, like while practicing, is like when I land something, it's again. Don't celebrate or whatnot. It's awesome. Good job. Again. Do it again. And that's where the real, like, that's where the 10,000 hours come in, and where you're just reps. You're doing it over and over again, breaking a trick down piece by piece. You want to get juggle and whatnot. You sit there and you make sure you got the toss of the Ken down, and then you toss the Tama in there. And it's like this whole thing. You break it down piece by piece. Then you get the catch of the Ken. You can just grab the Tama at first and not even worry about the Ken. Just getting the grasp of the Tama down, or the cup of it, and then catching the Ken afterwards, not even worrying about the spike.
Hmm.
Piece by piece. Reps, baby.
Yeah. Let's go. Repetitions, putting in the work, but also I think what you said is huge. Just breaking down the tricks into pieces. Breaking down
Yeah.
the tricks into parts. A trick is a lot less intimidating when you break it down and do the easiest version of it, or the version that you're at your level, and work from there. I've seen you do that with multiple tricks. One thing that has always stuck out to me over this past year, for you to work on the Ken flip, like Ken flip, like Ken flip, the pull up.
Yeah.
A tip that you shared with me that was helping you, that I've always remembered, that I've actually recommended to others to learn this trick, is that you would hold it in your hand. So you're not even pulling, there's no pull up happening. You're literally just holding the thumb in your offhand, holding the Ken in your dominant hand, and you're doing the motion, but you're not looking down at it. You're kind of looking, you're looking up, but you're also not just doing Ken flips like this. You're doing it
Right.
at the speed that you would do. You're trying to replicate the speed too. So instead of just
Right.
doing okay like this, you're going
Yeah.
like just to get that muscle memory down. See, I just failed it right there. Like
Actually,
I'm trying. Yeah, I benefit from it too. It's just been
yeah.
like
And
just
you're
getting the
looking
speed
up,
down.
you look up where the Tama would be, because you're looking
Yeah.
at the Tama when you do them. You're not looking at your Ken. I've actually heard that looking at your Ken has helped one or two players. Like Damaluke, the guy I went up against in freestyle. He told me he looks at his Ken when he does the three
Yeah,
single
the
leg
Campbell
Ken
light
flip.
light.
He'll look at his Ken while he's doing them, and he won't even acknowledge his Tama up here, which I don't. I'm not saying that I suggest or don't suggest. That's not how I do it, and the way that I know that I'm comfortable with. I'll do a juggle, and I look up at the Tama when I do a Ken flip. So I'm gonna look up while I try and get these reps in, and just break it down. Make it easier on yourself, but make it harder on yourself at the same time. Make it balanced, dude. Make it easier on yourself. Break it down, but use an old Dama with slick paint and small cups. Because that is, dude. If you can inward lunar tray flip on an Azora, you can inward lunar tray flip on almost anything. So
I like that. I like that. And old Damas are hard to find, but obviously people can find as. I mean, I don't know if
Konami
people can.
USA sells Azoras.
Yeah. So if people want to find old Damas, then there are definitely places to get them. Edwin just said Konami say, so there you have that for old Damas. I like that idea, just having a trainer Dama. It makes things harder and
Yeah.
warm it up. A lot of people are playing like bigger shapes, bigger cups to land tricks, and you do the opposite, and it'll be harder, but you'll be able to land that trick on any Dama. So
Oh
beautifully
yeah.
said, dude. I really like those tips. And to close off this pod, it's been an epic conversation. I have one last question for you. What, and it's more of kind of a more specified question. What is a tip that you can think about the top of your head? Maybe you mentioned this pot, maybe you haven't mentioned it in this conversation already, or maybe it's something you want to re-emphasize again that you already touched on. What is a tip that you have for players in the pro division who aren't at your level? They're not at your level yet. Maybe they make at max they make it to day two. They never made it to day three, or they struggle. They're very inconsistent in the open. They want to get to your level. They want to get to that elite level, but they're just in the pro division and they have a long hill to climb. Is there any tips you have for this specific level of player that resonate with you off the top of your head?
I feel I gotta tap back into that expectations. I feel like that would help. Not just pro, but anybody.
Hmm.
Letting go of the expectations, getting cookies into your jar for you to be able to grab from later, and just like I mean, man, people are so worried about landing it or not, and like, oh man, and then when they don't land it, there's like this exponent. They get twice as shaky, and after they miss one trick, they're more than likely going to lose the round. because they have this expectation of landing that trick or winning that first round, and when they don't and they get end up in losers bracket, they're like, oh man, and then they lose their first match in losers bracket. But let go of that expectation and supplement the resentment with love and gratitude. When that resentment comes up, look at the toy and just be grateful you're there and love the toy for what it is. And that is, I mean, I feel like this competition, NAKO, was the cleanest fashion that I've ever actually climbed through to the top. And I've never felt more comfortable. And I 100% contribute that to the expectations thing. I'd open my phone, I'd see Chicken Joe giving me a hang loose, and it's just literally like just letting go, man. Just let go. You know what you can do. You're at this awesome event, man. Shake hands, kiss some babies, like go on stage and like kick ass. And when you miss something, that's what was supposed to happen. Learn from it and move forward. And if you lose the round because you missed it, it's the same thing. Learn from it and fucking move forward in the best way you can. Because if you don't, then there's no growth. And that's what we're all trying to do is grow.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said, Edwin. Thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you so
Thank
much. I
you,
think this has been
man.
a really enlightening conversation. I think it's so cool to go into the depths of one of the best players in the entire world. So keep up what you're doing. You know for a fact that I'll always support you, and Nick will always support you, and we're always here to have your back, man. So I'm really looking forward to what you're doing in the future, and I hope everybody listening that you took something away from this. I don't know anybody who wouldn't be able to. Thank
Right.
you, Edwin. Really,
Thank you,
really
Zack.
appreciate you, and
No.
I hope you have a great rest of your day, dude.
Hey, you too, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate your time. Let's
Yep.
go.
Peace. See you,
Peace.
everybody.